Hey everybody, welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs podcast that is talking not a lot about the Cubs at the moment because there's not too much going on. I guess a couple of rumored being possibly interested in somebody.
Hell yeah.
Which is exactly what you want as a major market baseball team based in October. Just talking about who might we be interested in months from now. Anyway, I'm Kevin McCaffrey. Look at that, it's Adam Mamawala.
Hello, how's it going? We can still root for people who used to be on the Cubs. We can still root for Castellanos. We can still root for Schwarber. We can still root for Maldonado. Is that who's the only former Cub on the Astros?
Maldonado, who followed, I believe the chain is it went drafting Daniel Vogelbach, turning him into Mike Montgomery, turning him into Maldonado, who turned into Tony Kemp, who turned into Alfonso Rivas, I believe. So the chain is still alive. I may be getting part of that chain wrong, but
right.
Yeah. So Maldonado, his brief couple week stay, sort of a Piazza on the Marlins scenario, I feel like, with him.
It was a very. It's like when you see the trading card and you're like, wait, that was real?
Yeah, did that happen? Yeah, but I mean, the Astros are making good use of him. And in terms of Cubs, we got to root for Anthony Rizzo until very recently. He played great with the Yankees. I mean, he was Mr. Clutch the whole way through.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I think, were you also rooting for the Yankees over the Astros? I assume so,
Yes,
right?
I was. Yeah. I'll root for everybody over the Astros.
Yeah, I feel conflicted because I very much dislike the Astros. I do acknowledge that they're a very good team. It's like silly to not acknowledge that, especially like Correa's gone and it didn't impact them at all, which is speaks to their depth, I would say. But as much as I was rooting for the Yankees and especially for Anthony Rizzo, I am finding that as a lifetime Yankee hater, it's never not satisfying to see the Yankees get embarrassed on a national scale. And that is satisfying for me.
Yeah, and I feel like, as we've talked about before, you growing up in this area, which I didn't as much. You grew up in New Jersey and mostly, and I grew up mostly in the Chicago area, so I didn't have the Yankees sort of in my life on the day-to-day basis like you did. So I feel like my Yankee hate is lighter, but the fans are horrendous. As a group, they are a really low-level group of fans. They did a great job talking shit to Ted Cruz this week when he parked his fat ass behind the home plate just to that.
Yeah, we know one of the people who was involved in that, Eitan Levine. Shout out to Eitan for talking a bunch of shit.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that. Good for him.
That's Eitan. Yeah, he's the one screaming all that stuff at Ted Cruz.
That was really funny. It's just like it does bring me some joy to know that Ted Cruz will just have unpleasantness in his life every day for the rest of the time. Our friend Dan Goodman, another comedian, he's worked for like MLB.TV a decent amount. I'm not sure if he still does, but he's a Phillies fan, so congrats to him. And he had a very good, just sort of quick Ted Cruz joke about it was pretty chilly. If it gets below 50, he's going to fly to Mexico, at that Yankee game. So, plenty of good reasons to root against the Astros, but I do get there's plenty of Yankee fans. I'm happy for their sadness too.
Right. But yeah, I'm sure MLB was not overly thrilled that a couple of LCSs that could have gone 14 games total went 9 games. That's not probably what they were hoping for ratings wise. But nevertheless, that is what happened. The Yankees got swept by the Astros. The Phillies played their asses off and won in 5 games. They've not lost yet in Philadelphia in the postseason. I think they're 5-0. And I mean, I would love to take some credit for saying many months ago that I thought the Phillies would make it to the World Series. I would not have still kept with that decision in May. And I don't think I even stayed with it a month ago when we were talking about the playoffs. But nevertheless, I will brag about it now.
Yeah, you should. And there is, I was diving into the Phillies team ranks about, across different categories to see what exactly is here, because I was rooting against both the teams that end up in the World Series here. The Padres, were true giant killers on the way through this. They took down the Dodgers, who won a bazillion games and were basically the first. and they took down the Mets before that,
Right.
who were 100 wins. So they had they advanced to the World Series, they would have had a chance to eliminate 3 100-win teams, which would have been incredible.
Yeah.
Now the Phillies have sort of, they have not beaten the quite the same caliber, all the way through here. But they beat the Cardinals, who were fine. They beat them early, right, and then beat the Padres here. And I guess they beat the Braves, right?
They did beat the Braves. Yeah. They beat the Braves in 4 games. It was a little. It actually feels very 2015 Cubs-ish, like when the Cubs beat the Cardinals in 4 games, where it's like didn't look that good early on, and then all of a sudden you get the split, and you come back home, and you just don't lose at home, and all of a sudden you're playing for the World Series. But I'm very curious to hear your feelings on watching this Phillies team. I sense that they're probably similar to mine, but I'm finding that as much as it frustrates me that we basically let Schwarber walk for nothing,
told him to leave.
Watching Bryce Harper play is really killing me, because he could have been a Cub, and I don't think I'm like speaking out of turn by saying that. I'm fairly certain if the Cubs had offered him money, he would have been a Cub.
Yeah, I do think that's true. I think that it's hard to remember now, but Bryce Harper's his free agency really dragged deep into the offseason that year.
Machado too, I think, right?
Machado as well, yeah. And that and as we've talked about before, I feel like that is the sliding doors moment for the Cubs. What could have been, let's say, you can say a light dynasty, or just a longer sustained, consistent amount of success, like a top 5 market team with a huge fan base should have. It was the fact that they completely sat out that offseason for financial reasons and did not go after either Bryce Harper or Manny Machado. We were both Harper.
Well, they did sign Daniel Descalso, so they didn't fully
They did sign Daniel Descalso that offseason. And I just remember Sahadev Sharma reporting and being like, they do not seem to be interested in any of that. There are no negotiations. And I just kept being like, well, that can't be true, right? That can't they cannot be punting like this, right? And they did. And I think the Phillies are showing that if you just keep signing good baseball players, you give yourself a chance for good things to happen. They're not the best team in the league, but they continue. They signed Schwarber. They gave Harper the money, which on a per year basis is really super affordable too for a long time. But and they signed Castellanos. The defense obviously is not good on this team, but I think one thing that your prediction early on of them being a World Series contender is really good about is this team is built for a short series, heavy at the top of the rotation with Nolan Wheeler, and then a lineup that is championship caliber, pretty much across the board.
Yeah, I mean, Wheeler has been spectacular, and Hoskins too has really. I feel like Hoskins keeps rising to the occasion. Harper's almost like, in terms of the hype around him, he's the closest thing we have in baseball to like a LeBron sort of figure, where it's like he's been part of our consciousness for, I don't know how long, since he was 15.
Yeah, I keep almost sneezing. I'm allergic to Bryce Harper being on another team at this point.
Feel free to sneeze. I don't, we don't have a cough button, but
it just wasn't happening for me. But he's the, in terms of like fame, and in terms of box office, and then coming through in the clutch when he's gotten a chance. The Nationals won the World Series immediately after he left, but through they didn't get better because Bryce Harper left, even though there's, meatheads who would feel such a way. But he's, as you said, he's been famous since he was 16, and he's just lived up to the hype and then some. And he's probably market-wise underpaid, and might be approaching the area where is he underrated almost?
I think so, kind of like a Trout. I have to ask: was the whole sneeze fiasco? Was that some sort of like Ricketts performance art? Like it was a visual representation of like it's right there, could have had it, and then just. Went away.
And then it just I can't quite reach it. No, because I guess I actually wanted to sneeze, so no.
That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it really sucks when you see obviously adding Bryce Harper at a time they absolutely could have, and our friend Joe Kilgallen pointed this out. If they signed him on the contract he's on, even for that next year, the Cubs would have been like fifth in payroll, which is
right
where they should always be. I mean, they should never be lower than that. So
let me ask you this question. To what degree do we have to let me think of how I want to phrase this. There's a lot of the hindsight game going on with Cubs fans like us who actually, like the people that helped us win the World Series rather than actively root against them. But for every person like Schwarber who we say like, oh man, I wish he were still on the Cubs because look what he's doing now. If you're going to have that attitude, do we also have to extend that to like, okay, yes, but also if Javi Baez had the season for the Cubs that he just had for the Tigers, how would we feel about that? Meaning like, can you pick and choose when you play that game in the same way that like at the end of the season you lose a division by one game, you're always like, oh man, like remember those few games that we like should have won and we lost? Like if we'd won those, we would have won the division. It's like sure, but also you won some games that you shouldn't have as well.
Yeah, I think it's easy to pick and choose and be like, well, we should have just done the perfect combination of everybody, and I think that's obviously there's fans can fan any way they want, but I think when you hear like complaints about how the Cubs have handled this, I think the Astros are actually a pretty good team to look at in terms of how their roster is constructed, because no one ever thought the Cubs were going to keep every Cub who won the World Series forever. That's just not how these things work. And the Astros are sitting here and they let Garrett Cole go, they let Carlos Correa go, they let George Springer go, right? So they let some of the core of the really good teams go, but they actually extended anyone. And that is something the Cubs didn't do. So when we play the pick and choose game where it's like, it would have been nice to have Rizzo or Schwarber, I think it is legitimate because the Cubs gave us literally no one to choose from in terms of extending anyone. Whereas the Astros extended Alex Bregman, extended Jose Altuve, re-signed Justin Verlander. So it's just tremendously bizarre that the Cubs put us in a position where we're watching all these players who are still good sprinkled across teams that are winning, and instead of adding to them and augmenting that team, just sold off everybody, never extended anybody, and they're going to continue to do that, it seems, with Contreras. So it's frustrating, but I think it's understandable for Cubs fans to be playing that pick and choose game,
Yeah, and I think we all knew that even at the time that we were advocating for that. I think we were aware that you were never going to be able to extend everyone, nor should you, arguably. But you kind of just have to like pick a couple of them and hope that you're picking the right people to extend. In the same way, weird comparison possibly, but like when the Brewers kind of were at a crossroads, they're like, all right, do we extend Braun or do we extend Fielder? And they picked right because Braun obviously had a lot more longevity than Fielder had. It's also fair. I don't like to give really any credit to the Cubs front office, but they also chose right on not extending certain people. Like it was the right move to not offer Jake Arrieta a big deal and to instead sign Yu Darvish. Now, should we have traded him? Probably not, but like that was a good move. It was probably the right move to not offer a big extension or deal to Dexter Fowler because we saw how his career played out.
Sure.
So there are situations that like the Cubs did the right thing by not extending someone. But to your point, if you don't extend anyone, you kind of put yourself in a position where you have no choice but to kind of start over.
Yeah, I'm just much more hesitant to give credit when you had what we see are a ton of quality players across the league still performing at a high level, still doing well, and will be doing so going forward, and you could not analyze or negotiate a deal with any of that. It just shows such a huge lack of coherent planning at your organization that you just couldn't get anything done in any way. And then you've given us the last 2 years, you've given us as Cubs fans, which I think is inexcusable. And we're seeing, and I think the Astros of these teams are probably the better comp for like, this is what you should do. You pick a couple of guys from your core, extend them, and then you work around that, and then you're going to lose some guys, you're going to trade away some guys, sure, but but if you have a core, keep some of a core, add to it, as we said they should have with Harper. So,
and as far as we know, Epstein wanted to do that. It's that the Ricketts said like there's no money for you.
It sure seems like it, and I'll look forward to reading that book if he ever writes a really if he ever writes a truthful recounting of the end of those Cubs years. So Yeah, as we're, I guess before just like talking World Series matchup, is there anything from the LCSs that stood out to you that you know
I mean, I
that
think
had you feel in any kind of way? Yeah.
the most notable moment for me is just Kyle Schwarber hitting maybe the longest home run I've ever seen in my life.
Off our friend you, yeah, off Darvish, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think what did they say? 120 miles an hour off the bat, 488 feet. I mean,
Hmm.
have you been to Petco?
No, I haven't.
It's a great stadium, first of all, but secondly, that is really far. Like balls do not. This is not like a Yankee Stadium second deck shot. That is an area that even in batting practice you don't see a lot of balls go up there. But yeah, just no real takeaways other than to say that heading into the World Series, if I were a betting man, which I sometimes am,
Hmm.
I have no idea how to approach this series. Like, there's a part of me that thinks that Astros are just going to steamroll the Phillies because they're just that much better of a team. There's also a part of me that thinks that the Phillies are like team of destiny status at this point.
Yeah, I Schwarber has a really good like if you had an Olympic medal podium of his longest homers, he has just some really
Oh yeah.
iconic homers in his life. The one you mentioned right there in the LCS, the super
Mhm.
duper bomb. Obviously, the ball that is encased in glass upon.
Is it still up there?
I mean, it was for a while. I don't know if it still is, but
Yeah.
it should be atop the Wrigley scoreboard in right field, right?
Mhm.
One of the longest homers I've ever seen in person was the one he hit at City Field, where he hit it to
Yeah, we were both
like
there.
the like seafood place. Which, when you're walking out there, you just don't feel like you're in danger of a ball getting to you.
I seem to remember Ken like jumping on top of my lap almost out of excitement
Yeah,
because we were sitting behind
yeah,
home plate on the third base side, so it was a perfect view of just the trajectory of that ball. And then of course the bomb off of Garrett Cole
Garrett
in the
Cole, yeah.
wild card game, which like that is still to me one of my favorite moments in the entire Cubs run because it was like, oh my God, they really are good. I think they really are going to win this game.
Yeah, and watching him, just the way he swung into it, placed the bat down vertically, and sort of
Yeah.
like set it. A really casual, subtle flip was really nice to that
And
too.
I believe there was a watch out in the Allegheny was the call on that one,
Hmm.
which is pretty fun.
Nice. Yeah. So, but as far as betting World Series wise, so it. I agree. I have two bets down.
Okay.
Actually, for each like basically full series result, I put money on the Astros in six because that is what my brain thinks is going to happen.
Mhm.
Is I think the Astros are just better. They are very good. They're really annoying too, as we saw in the Yankees series. Even when a team gets up on them, they just relentlessly are making
Right.
contact with the ball. Houston is second in strikeout rate in terms of avoiding strikeouts as a team. They managed to hold that contact while being fourth in the majors in homers. So it's like a lot of power not being struck out. It's really difficult to beat there. So I have that, but then I also put a small amount of money on the Phillies in four, just in case they come in and just
I love
kick the
it.
shit out of them and just maul them. It would be a nice payoff. So those are the
Now,
two ways I bet.
when we talk about the strikeout versus home run thing, is there any chance that the Astros? I mean, trash cans are out. There's no way they can do trash cans anymore. But do we think there's like a vibrating butt plug chess
Chess
controversy sort of
style,
situation?
yeah. I think you cannot rule out a remote controlled butt plug in every one of those
Right.
Astros. You know what I mean? There is it's right there, it's hiding in plain sight, kind of. So yeah, I think you can't rule it out because they fucking cheated harder than any other team did. They got caught. They weren't really sorry about it. So yeah, I mean I think it's totally fair to just, you know, leave that out there.
I
Maybe.
mean, I remember when there was all that talk about like, oh, is Altuve wearing something on his chest that's buzzing because of the way he like weirdly like cradled his chest as he came around the bases
On
after
his
that
walk
home run
off,
against Chapman?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he had like the worst excuse for it where he was like, "Oh, I got a tattoo and I was embarrassed. I didn't want people to see my tattoo." It's like I mean, you're in locker rooms. Like the reporters have seen your chest, buddy, you know.
Well, his
Um
tattoo did say, I am cheating right now." So if you have that
yes,
kind of
and they had the
tattoo, you
date
don't
and
want people
time
to
in
see
the
that.
day's
Right.
newspaper. Yeah, exactly. Um so yeah, as far as betting goes, that's where I have it. Have you placed any bets on the series?
I have not. I have more or less stopped any sort of sports betting, but then
Mhm.
every time something happens where I'm like, I knew that was going to happen, then I beat myself up about it. Like we're
Sure.
recording this on a Tuesday, the day after the Bears beat the shit out of the Patriots, which was
Hmm.
incredibly satisfying. And
Yes.
I for some reason had a feeling before the game yesterday. I was like, you know what? I think the Bears are like 9 point underdogs. Like this could be like a fun money line. Like just put $10 on the Bears to win 30, and I didn't do it. And then as they were winning, I was like, why didn't I just do that?
I won a three-leg parlay on that Bears
Hell
game
yeah.
yesterday. David Montgomery touchdown, Bears at plus 8.5, and the Bears to score over 10.5 points. So
What did that pay out?
smartest man in America. Let's see what it paid out, and it was I've just bet $5 and it paid 26. So that's the kind of high
Wow.
rolling that
That's more
I'm
money than we've
doing.
gotten from DraftKings for doing ads for them.
It actually is. The only way to get paid by DraftKings is to take them that way because they're liars, cheats, and sneaks, and they're rooting for the Astros. So, yeah, the odds I got for the Astros Worlds to win in six was plus 340. So that's $10 to win 44. FYI,
Okay. Okay.
if you're out there. So, but this is in terms of the matchup. I will say I
Yeah.
think the Phillies have a better chance than your first thought would say because so I said the
Mhm.
Houston is fourth in homers, seventh in OBP, fifth in slugging. The Phillies sixth in homers, ninth in OBP, sixth in slugging. So offensively, they're actually this is within the margin of error. These are the Astros are a little bit better. The contact is better for sure, but they are comparable offensively. Where Houston is better, I mean, everyone's better than Philly defensively. Defensively, they're bad, but in terms of pitching, Houston is second in ERA plus, and Philadelphia is 18th in ERA plus. That's not good.
Hmm.
But if you look at the pitchers that are going to be getting the bulk of the innings, things tighten up here. Where if you go with Wheeler and Nola, I think you have to go with basically a three-man rotation in Philadelphia. I think you just have to get Wheeler and Nola out there as much as you can. I guess you could Wheeler, Nola, Ranger Suarez is
Suarez.
probably going to
Yeah.
be your third. If they go with a fourth, you're piggybacking probably Syndergaard, Eflin, something like that.
Hmm.
But Wheeler and Nola against Verlander and Valdez, it's getting close to a toss up there in terms of pitching matchup. So if they can swing those sort of 50-50 games early, Philly actually has a decent chance in a short series, I think.
I think you're right, and I mean, theoretically, the Phillies benefit just as much as the Astros do from playing in the park that Houston does. I did want to ask you what you thought about the Yankees being kind of salty about like, oh, they got lucky. Like, it does make you look pretty bad when you end up getting swept to be claiming, you know what I'm talking about, like with the
No, I didn't
Judge.
see that, I don't think.
So in game two, I think it was game two, yeah. Judge hit a ball that, like, statistically speaking, at that launch angle, that miles per hour, whatever, usually goes out. Whereas Bregman hit a home run to left field, like 91 off the bat.
Right.
But it was something like the roof was open, so there was like a crosswind coming across the field from right field to left field, and that kind of knocked the ball down. But essentially, Severino after the game was like, "Oh yeah, well, Judge hit the ball at this rate, and it usually goes out." And I mean, Bregman only hit it 91 off of me, and that shouldn't have been a home run. And then Boone was like, "Yeah, we kind of got screwed by the
The
roof."
roof, yes, that I did see. Boone blaming the roof. I guess that was what after game two, maybe. So
Hmm.
it's like you're not wrong that you got unlucky on the contact there, but you didn't get 4-0 unlucky games wise.
Right.
You had plenty of chances to even out your own luck there. So yeah, it is funny to get swept at all and to be like, man, we were right there, and sometimes they just get the breaks. I mean, they didn't get every single break the whole way through.
Yeah. But yeah, I have no ability to be objective because I really would hate to see the Astros win, but I do. It's not going to surprise me either way, honestly. Like the Astros should win the series. They are a better team. They have home field advantage. As far as the Phillies are concerned, in terms of like a three-man rotation, how would they do that? I mean, there's only two off days in the series, so like if I assume, will they go Wheeler Nola or Nola Wheeler?
I mean, I think I don't know how they're going to line it up. I mean, who pitched? I mean, I guess I would think it's Wheeler one, Nola two.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's obviously not ideal, and I don't know how those guys particularly bounce back on short rest. But I mean, it's like I think you look at it as sort of like a double how Cleveland used Kluber, right, in the
Hmm.
in the series against the Cubs. Now, did that work out? No, it did not really.
Right.
But it's I think you just have to get Wheeler and Nola throwing as many innings as you can in the series one way or another. And like you said, with the Houston having the home field advantage, I really think if Philadelphia can steal one of those two games in
Right.
Houston and then come back into Philly with a chance to like win it at home, if they just run roughshod with that the way they've been doing at home lately, then it could get exciting.
Give me a World Series winning Schwarber walk off and call it a day.
Yeah. Oh my God. That would be. And Schwarber, you saw him friggin' riding a bull, partying afterwards. Everyone's singing the Robyn's Dancing on My Own has become the anthem of this group, which is really funny to watch just a group of bros know every single word to this Robyn banger. And I feel like the it would be an all-time epic party group and city if they were to win this
Oh
year.
yeah.
And much like with the Yankees, it's a rare case where everyone's rooting for Philadelphia. One of the one of the groups
Yeah.
of fans that everyone hates the most, people are actually rooting for this time. So it's like this is, you've got people behind you. That would be a very fun thing to see.
If there is anything that's going to cost the Phillies this series, other than the fact that I think the Astros are just a more well-rounded team,
Sure.
I do kind of feel it. It's similar to like when a basketball team, especially college basketball team, like doesn't make free throws. It's gonna come back and bite you in the ass at some point when it really matters. The Phillies defense is not good, and they
It
have
sucks,
bailed
yeah.
themselves out by their balls that like should be double plays that they boot. I mean, we saw
Hmm.
the Yankees have that same situation in a situation that like maybe cost them
Custom game
the
four,
series in
yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
Like it was Torres, right? I think who threw
Torres
that
and
ball away.
Kiner Falefa, yeah. It's hard
Yeah,
to see who
they're
to blame
both.
there because yeah.
Yeah, Kiner Falefa has been not great
Mhm.
recently. But the point is, the Phillies. It seems like every time they make some sort of gaffe, they either get out of the jam or they come back the next inning and score a bunch of runs, and it doesn't matter. But a team like you cannot give a team like Houston 4 outs. You absolutely cannot do it, or you will lose the series.
No, and talking about how much contact Houston makes too is talking myself more into the bet I put down money wise for the Houston in six because Houston just doesn't let you off the hook with
Right.
strikeouts really, and Philadelphia has some guys who can really strike you out with Wheeler and Nolan, then Alvarado and Sir Anthony Dominguez in the bullpen too. When they're commanding the ball, those guys are really tough to hit and can strike you out. But
Right.
yeah, but they're going to put the ball in play a lot against a really bad defense. So if Philadelphia's going to have to get a little lucky on the BABIP, I feel like.
You know what I would take, which would make me really happy. So I am rooting for the Phillies. I don't particularly like Philly fans. Give me a 2019 series where no team wins at home and the Phillies win in seven.
That would be funny. That would be, and Houston was involved in that, right? That was the
Hmm.
Houston Nationals series where everyone on the road. That yeah. So no one gets to celebrate at their home. I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah, that felt like something that like will never happen again. The idea that the road team would win all 7 games is very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I assume if it's sort of like a seven underdogs in a row sort of situation. So, um,
Although,
yeah,
hey, I mean, the Cubs were 3-1 on the road in the World Series and 1-2 at home. So who knows?
that's true. Yeah, and the series starts on Friday, which to me, I hate. This is just what the schedule was laid out as to begin
Right.
with. I understand some of the logistics involved in this, but it's weird because it really breaks up. It's basically an all-star break before the World Series now, and that just
Yeah, it's
isn't
very
how
annoying.
baseball's supposed to be played.
No.
So
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's preordained because they expect the other series to go longer. But yeah, I love the usual format in a non-lockout season where I mean, actually today. So it's been cool this year because of the 6 years and the leap year,
mhm.
all of the days line up where like 6 years ago today on a Tuesday, the Cubs lost game one of the World Series. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of the dates are the same. But I love that format of like 2 during the week, then the road team gets like a weekend at home, which obviously worked out perfectly for us going back to Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2 the next week. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I guess it's Friday, Saturday, off day Sunday, and then like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, off day, Friday, Saturday again if it gets that far.
Yeah. Start. So I guess by next time we're podcasting next week at this time, it'll be. I mean,
Could be over.
Could be.
It probably
Yeah.
won't be.
Yeah.
I guess if we're recording next Tuesday or Wednesday, we'd be 4 games into it.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
Phillies will have swept by then. You've
Yeah,
made a bunch of money on your small bet.
Pay me off, baby. Yeah.
Now
And
the
then-
other one, you only get paid if the Astros win specifically in 6, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I bet Phillies in 4 and Astros in 6. Those are the 2 places I have my money down. So yeah, real sensible betting on my part. As far as Cubs news goes, Ian Happ, Gold Glove finalist. I would like to say
Love that.
So he was named.
I would have loved to see Nico in there, but
Nico kind of got jobbed there. Yeah, he led in the defensive metric that I think is what is officially used by the Gold Glove committee, as it were. But one quarter of the nominating process is the statistical breakdown there, and then 3/4 of it, I believe, is like manager vote. It might be. I believe it's just manager. As opposed to manager and player. But it seems like managers don't watch Nico play defense. So that's unfortunate for him because he led in the metric and somehow didn't make the 3 finalists. But Ian Happ did. He's a finalist with David Peralta and Brewer and Christian Yelich. And if you follow us at Away Games Pod, you know, I just tweeted this fun fact that since Christian Yelich tweeted out that no one needs help facing Yu Darvish, in those 3 seasons since then, Yelich has been worth 4.5 wins above replacement total. Yu Darvish has been worth 10. So Darvish has been worth more than 2 Yeliches, basically 2 Yeliches and a 2022 Patrick Wisdom, better than to make up 1 Yu Darvish.
right. Wait, you're saying Yelich is one of the Gold Glove finalists?
Yeah.
Doesn't he have no arm at all?
He cannot throw a baseball.
That's not a part of that conversation?
Apparently not. You know, yeah.
Am I wrong that he's like not a good fielder?
No, he's been good defensively as far as like getting to the ball. He was a center fielder for a good chunk of his career, so he's been all right at getting to the ball. But no, he does not throw well. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, it speaks to how hard Ian Happ works because he's not someone who came up as an outfielder. He's someone who came up and didn't particularly look great in the infield, but I never thought of him as anything more than like a good to like slightly above average fielder, and he was really, really good all year, and hopefully in a way that's sustainable. Who knows if he'll be with the Cubs for longer than a year or half a year, but
right.
I wouldn't mind keeping him around. I guess if you did try to extend him, you would be doing so at his highest value, so I could understand why the Cubs wouldn't want to do that, but I would love for this year to not have been an anomaly in terms of the all-star selection and defense and all that.
I mean, it seems about the guys had talent the whole time. Obviously set what was it, the rookie with the switch hitting rookie home run record coming up, and he sort of the power went down a little bit, but for the sake of contact and on base and stuff, he had a really good year, and he's a genuine plus left fielder, and at some point the Cubs should keep a plus position player that they have on the roster one day. I guess the only other Cub news, this isn't news to hear that, maybe they're interested in Jose Abreu, but what are your feelings on that? Did we talk about this already?
No, I don't think we have.
Yeah.
I'm for it. I think like I want Abreu to be like part of a larger plan, obviously, but I think like I assume it would be a short, fairly high, per year, sort of like a 2-year, 40 million sort of thing, or maybe not even that much. I don't know.
Right.
If you would
Probably
command,
high teens, you would think. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're asking me if Anthony Rizzo might want to come back, I would rather have him than Jose Abreu, but I'm fine with Abreu being there. And then maybe that bridges the gap to see like what Mervis is going to be, because I'm not assuming anything, but I think it's not crazy to dream on Mervis being like part of the big league team next year.
No, I don't think it's crazy at all. At this point, I think it's leaning towards likelihood, unless like a Rizzo reunion happened, which I don't believe. Rizzo will be opting out almost surely, and I assume he will just sign back with the Yankees for more money, which, good for him. But yeah, I think Abreu makes sense. He makes sense, a lot of sense, in a way that just further angers me about what the Cubs won't do, because Mervis is a left-handed hitter, Abreu's a right-handed hitter. Abreu's really good. He had a WRC plus of something like in the 130s this year. Mm-hmm. That's great. That's 30% plus above average, right? Right, he's a right-handed hitter, so he can DH and play sort of split first with Mervis as a lefty. So they can both get their at bats there. I love all that. Who can do all that and play catcher is Wilson Contreras, who's right here. Yeah. So all the way, and who also had a WRC plus in the 130s and above, is 5 years younger than Jose Abreu. So to me, Jose Abreu is a good idea. He's a worse version of the better idea that is on the Cubs and wants to be a Cub for life. So it's frustrating for me to watch all that, but if the Cubs sign Abreu, it's a good signing, whatever. But it seems like the White Sox will not be bringing him back, which I also think is frustrating for White Sox fans. So,
yeah, I don't really understand that. No. But the biggest addition by subtraction is not bringing La Russa back. So good for them.
He's sleeping his way into retirement. Sleepy Tony's taken off. So, I think that's all the notes I had. Did you have any other Cub or World Series notes before we wrap it up for the week?
That's all I got. I look forward to the next time we can talk about the Cubs being in the World Series. It feels far away, but maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe someday. I am ready for the off season. Thanks for listening, everybody. At Away Games Pod. We'll catch you next week. Enjoy the World Series.